man.
Joshy called me. Do you remember when I put the deposit down on that house in Ojai for his bachelor party? Well, you can't get the deposit back.
Are you gonna go?
Joshy! Hey! Joshy,
Oh my God.
This weekend is going to be great for us, cleansing the palate. Keep it light, keep it fun.
Yes. He's hurting and he's been going through a lot. Now I'm hurting too.
Let's not compare the hurt of a breakup with what Joshy went through.
Those songs we used to sing.
Josh, the man of the hour.
Sit down, sit down, sit down.
My boy here told me there was a bachelor party.
No, I was gonna get married. I'm not anymore. So.
I thought you said that this is a bachelor party.
We're not even really using that word. Are you coming out with my friends?
Yeah. How could I resist?
Hey, it's the girl from the bar! Hello?
How you doing, Josh? Are you talking to anybody?
Seems to me like Joshua got us together to have a fun weekend.
I don't appreciate bringing my 4-year-old into a room that's coated in cocaine powder.
You think if I knew your kid were coming, I would have laid out drugs?
You offered him cocaine!
Guys, we gotta rally here, okay? Energy is low. Hi, ladies, come on in!
You need someone to talk to.
Always.
But now it's all gone. How do you do it? How do you put your back into
I have a friend that I could introduce you to if you're interested.
Does she like desperate broken men with nothing to offer?
Most American women like that kind of thing.
It's pretty late. People are tired. We don't need music put on. Maybe the night's just over.
Trust me, the night is not over.
You're never gonna take my wings away. Joshy! It's all gone.
Bye. Have a good honeymoon.
Oh, thank you. I'm not getting
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Adam, thanks so much for being here.
Hello, Learning Annex. Hello, Hunter College Student Union.
One more.
Hello, Port Authority.
Adam, congratulations on this movie. I saw that you're a producer on it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I, kind of helped with the story and stuff like that. And so when you do that, you get a producer credit, I guess.
Did you know the writer-director Jeff Bina beforehand? I know he made Life After Beth.
Yeah, I've known, oh my God, I feel like I'm yelling at you guys. I've known Jeff a long time, and we play basketball together, and that's kind of how our friendship started, and I had a small part in Life After Beth. I try to have a small part in all things Aubrey Plaza is doing, and it worked out, and so then that led to this.
And what was the impetus behind this? Because what you don't see in the trailer, and I don't want to give anything away because it's sort of wonderful to discover what the movie's about when you start watching it, is that it's really dark.
It is a dark movie. It is a dark movie. I think that was one of the goals for me and for Thomas Middleditch, who is incredible in the movie, and Nick Kroll and Jenny, is that I think when we approached this, we wanted to do something that was had a little more gravity to it. With still the kind of improvisational energy that we like to bring to it. So it was a challenge, but it's nice to do that. It's nice to kind of treat things with actual stakes sometimes.
What is the challenge of that? The sort of improvising comedy versus improvising sort of dramatic depth?
Well, I think on a movie, the number one thing when you're improvising is you can't improvise story because you just can't go off on a tangent and shoot something. It takes so much preparation. So your story has to be tight, and that's what we had going for us. Jeff wrote a really clean and clear outline. It was about 12 pages long that was just very like, you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. There was not a single line of dialogue. So it let us kind of like, you knew what you had to do. But then, because we shot in order too, you sort of, to like build out your character, just you got to know them the same way that you get to know them in the movie. And I think that led to a tremendous amount of energy.
Had you worked that way before? I know you have an appearance by Swanberg in the movie, who's kind of
yes,
sort of
Joe and Chris Swanberg and
right.
Jude, their son, are in the movie. Yeah, I've never done a Swanberg movie, but I'm a fan of them, and I wanted I've always been interested in doing something like that, and this was my first kind of foray into it. And it's extremely difficult and challenging, but rewarding.
How did you guys assemble the cast? Was like assembling the cast an importance of it? People who have an improvisational background, but at the same time would be and could go a little bit deeper?
Yeah, I think. Well, I think Thomas and I, everybody had kind of knew each other and worked together in various aspects. Brett Gelman and I have known each other for way too long. And same with Nick and Thomas and I have worked together a bunch and came up together in New York. And so I think there was just a common agreement of the way we were going to approach this, because we had all done kind of other improvised movies or slapsticky movies where it was like the goal is to just fire it off and be as funny as you can. And so I think we all were excited to slow down a bit and see what kind of the silence felt like.
And I'm curious where Alex Ross Perry fit into this, a really gifted filmmaker right now.
A brilliant filmmaker in
And
his own right.
as an actor, he's only really been in, I mean, minor things here and there, but he was in his own film, The Color Wheel.
Yeah.
But I haven't really seen him take on a large role since then.
That is another credit to Jeff Baena, the writer-director, who they play poker together, and I think Alex Ross Perry annoys him enough, just the right amount, that Jeff said, I think you should be in my movie. And he annoyed us just the right amount as well, so it worked out.
So he's very similar to that character?
So what you're seeing on screen is Alex Ross Perry. So you can only imagine the dream it is to work with him as a director.
So when did you come along in the film to sort of start developing the story with Jeff?
I kind of had a rough idea of the story. I had this kind of vision of what I thought it could be through like bachelor party experiences of my own and kind of some stuff that I had seen in my life. And so I was talking about it with Jeff, and then Jeff kind of came back to me a little bit later and was like, I really couldn't shake this, and I formed this outline, and we liked it, and then we were lucky enough to get a tax credit from the state of California so that we could shoot it in Ojai, which is, I think, Ojai became like a really central character in the movie because it's such a unique place. So it kind of evolved that way, and very organically.
I love that the film has the film's relationship with drugs, because it doesn't have a judgmental relationship with drugs at all, but it does have a sort of opinion on them and what it means to be that age and what it means to be partying like that and what it can actually do to your brain. Not like how it can like permanently damage your brain, but in terms of how it can just sort of change your mindset completely, like Gelman's character when you guys are on mushrooms. And a complete change of heart. It's a weird thing to be that age and go on like an 8-hour trip.
Yeah.
What am I doing? Like it turns into something different.
Well, I think drugs are, first of all, I think drugs are great.
Yeah.
And I think drugs are not great, but mushrooms especially, which is like a kind of genre-specific drug for these types of people in this movie. It's like a big thing to do, is like go away with your friends and do mushrooms, and inevitably you always have one friend that, because drugs are it's like a ride for you and yourself only. You're the only one experiencing it at that time, which is why I feel like a lot of drug addicts are actually very lonely, and it's just kind of like something to be with. Your drug is like something that you can be around. Right. And so inevitably there's one friend on all these trips that like, well, now I've learned this about myself, and and now I got to deal with it. And so the trip doesn't exactly, it doesn't have the same lightness that it did before the trip.
How did you guys approach performing, or not performing, but portraying being high, different types of high? Because it's a difficult thing to play. You don't want to overdo it, but at the same time, you have to sell it to the audience. Yeah,
well, I think most of us are versed enough in the kind of behavioral aspects of being high versus not being high that we know, or what we were going for is to show how little kind of, you're talking, unless you're like extremely fucked up, you're talking a really fractional element of mind distortion. At least for me, I don't find.
Talking also about people who have had experience for a long
time with drugs. So I think you just wanted to play it again. The whole goal was to play it as real as possible and to not have any moment feel like, whoa, I'm on drugs, which is so
Most
often
annoying guy at the party.
Always, and like any movie, and there's always that like Spike Lee cut of when someone's on drugs where like the background fades and you rack focus in. And we just wanted to avoid all that. We just wanted to make it seem like it was all in the same reality.
Sort of make it feel like you're actually in a room watching these people, which is like if you were in a room watching these people, you would never have a quick rack focus.
No, you couldn't. No, you couldn't, because you'd be getting yelled at by Gelman. So.
So what were your guys' rules when you set out to improvise these scenes? Because I would imagine in order to come out with, even the best improvisers, I think, have crutches that they're going to fall back on.
Sure.
Especially when you're not trying to be funny and you're trying to be real. A lot of times it's, people say dude too much or they say man too much. They say these things because they don't have lines of dialogue to go to.
Of course. We had by like the second day, we kind of fell into a rhythm where you would do a major big blocking rehearsal of the entire scene. And then that would kind of clue Jeff into what he wanted and what he needed from every character. And then you'd refine it as you went throughout the scene until you like whittled it away. So
actually turn it into lines of dialogue by the end of the scene.
Kind of yes, but it's a little more free than that, because even in your ninth take, you're not required to say anything. So there is a little more freedom. But it is a testament to Jeff that he was able to keep it straight in his head and be able to cut from one to another and not make it seem like a mishmash. And it was really an interesting experience.
And, you said that he was able to keep it together in his head and not sort of turn it into mishmash. But for you guys, I'd imagine a film on a budget like this, you don't have that much time to sort of keep experimenting and improvising. How did you sort of make your day? How did you keep it together?
Again, a testament to the cast, and I think everyone was just like hyper focused and really, and again, it was no one's first rodeo in a lot of ways, so everyone knew what to expect. Everyone had made a movie like this. Everyone had done movies at this budget. There was no surprises. Everyone knew how everything was going to shake out. And I think sometimes when you get lucky enough to be working in a professional environment like this, a movie comes out that does feel like it was just made in a movie factory, and in a good way. And that's kind of what this felt like. It was like, we're making a movie. There was never like are we going to make our day? It was just like, no, we're making a movie in Ojai, and everyone knows that it's going to be long hours and rough, but cold.
What did your character come out of in terms of if you were helping along with the story? Did you sort of want to play a character like this?
Sure. I mean,
and talk about the character.
I play a character named Ari, who is kind of as married and as a child, and is kind of looking at this bachelor party as a bit of an escape from that. And I think it's born out of when I have two young babies, and I'm hitting this. I'm almost 35. I'm hitting this point in my life where you're just, you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna be dead soon. Even if you're not, you are, like, at any moment you're gonna be dead soon. So you're like, you start to just kind of think of it in those kind of black and white ways, and it makes you change the way you look at stuff.
Well, life is kind of, the path of life has kind of set out at this point. I mean, even as an actor, there'll be differences here and there, but your life, for the most part, is protecting these three things now.
Exactly. So whenever you are thrown into a new environment and your focus shifts from those three things to something else, and you meet people, connections can be formed. It's just human. And so I think that we were trying to show that no, a lot of this movie is about male emotion and like no man is an island type stuff. And so you can set yourself off on an island and do drugs and isolate yourself from the world, but inevitably life will force you to make a connection, and then you're gonna have to deal with it.
A lot of times I think people, when they get thrust into those situations, get really terrified of making connections because they do only care about the protection of those others. So like when you meet a new person, specifically a woman, and it's a man, or a woman meet another man, it's like, can't talk to you.
It's a depressing thought to think how many loves of our lives we've lost because we were refusing to let go of some kind of idea in our head of what our current love life is. Anyway, good night, everybody.
That's what I mean. This movie.
No, it's true.
It's a movie about real emotions. It's not a bachelor party movie.
No, it's not a bachelor party movie, even though it takes place at a pseudo bachelor party. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a really complex question that we were looking at, and that I'm sure a lot of people deal with every day.
Well, I'll lighten things up a little bit. I've interviewed you before, and I brought this up before, and I think if the rest of the time that I interview people and that you take interviews and I'm doing them, I'm going to bring this up.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Greatest thing that anybody may have ever done on television. And it was your, for lack of a better word, your debacle of hosting job on for the Late Show before they hired James
I think there's only
Corden.
2 lates in that, but you added a third because that's how bad it was when I did it. But thank you.
That's what the producers were saying when you were hosting it. They're like, I wish this was a third.
Yeah, this should be the Late Show.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a once in a lifetime, really fun experience.
Guide me through how that came about. Who were you with and what you were doing on air?
I was filming Mindy at the time, and CBS was making a change from Ferguson to Corden, and Corden needed, I guess, like 3 months to get his visa right or something. I don't know. And they needed guest hosts, and so they like had run through all these guest hosts, and they had one night left. And the producer who produces Corden, this great guy Nick Bernstein, used to run late night at NBC, and I had been up early in my career for a job on Saturday Night Live. I did not get it, and it haunts me to this day. And
Although you recently portrayed a Saturday Night Live writer in
I did.
Birbiglia's
I did. It does not.
Kind of Saturday Night Live.
Kind of Saturday Night Live. And so many of my friends are on Saturday Night Live, and I'm such a super fan. But anyway, what were we talking about?
Sorry, the Late Show.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he had called me, and we had kept up, and he said, "Do you want to take this one night in New York?" And I was like, "You fucking yes, of course. I want it really bad." So I flew to New York, and they gave me one writer, so I hired my buddy Gil Ozeri, who, if you don't follow him on Snapchat, follow Gil Ozeri on Snapchat. It's the funniest thing you've ever seen in your life. And he's an Emmy-winning writer on Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Happy Endings. And so I hired him, and the next day when his plane was supposed to go out, we had the biggest blizzard of like the last 5 years. So he couldn't get to LA, so I had no writer and no crew. And I had Ben Schwartz here promoting something else. So the great Ben Schwartz. So he agreed to be my co-host, and they had no guests for me. They didn't know who the guests would be till the night before. So I was just like getting drunk in a bar, getting emailed, "You're going to be interviewing Martellus Bennett from the Chicago Bears." And I was like, who? What? Okay. And then I filmed like 2 bits day before. My buddy Sam Goldberg, who works for NBC Golf, like basically snuck me into 30 Rock so I can edit it, because CBS gave me CBS didn't even give me a microphone to do Man on the Street.
Really?
Yep, they were basically like, no one's gonna see this hour, just don't like say a bunch of like racist shit. And I was like, can't promise that. And so it was basically just me and Ben doing the best we could with no audience. We were on Charlie Rose's set. It was like
that's also the
vacuum of comedy.
That's also my favorite part about it too, is that you're not on a comedy show sketch or set. You are on a morning news.
It's like a bad dream. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a bad.
Yeah.
And then you brought Eric Andre on, which is just
my buddy, my good buddy.
On the news set.
Well, Nick was like, we need a comedian, and Eric was in town, so I texted him, and he was like, "Can I be me?" And I was like, 100% no. And he was like, "Great, I'll do it." And I was like, "Shit." And then he came on, and we had a blast. There's so much of that will never see the light of day. I mean, he did a whole like 15 minutes with his shirt off, like where he was trying to like fit one of his nipples into his belly button. And I was just like, I've never seen anything that funny, but it'll never. I think CBS seized it. Now, like Les Moonves has it under lock and key. I don't know what's going on.
That's where Les Moonves has it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know where he has it. Him and Julie.
What were you thinking when you were shooting it? What was on your mind?
I'm having the time of my life. When I used to do improv and sketch, I wish I could get to do it more. I haven't had a chance in a while. But when I used to perform a lot, I loved bombing. I took a real pride in it, and I think some of my friends who would improvise with me didn't like it. They wouldn't trust me because they knew that if we were going down a direction that the audience didn't like, I would not want to dig myself out of it. I would want to go into that direction and really like find out why and make the audience change their minds, and that can be scary. But I enjoy it, and so I was getting that same rush because I knew that I was like, basically taking a shit on an American icon of the Late Late Show.
That was what I loved about it. Like I say debacle, but to me, when I've watched it, which is a few times now,
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
It's watching someone it's watching the thrill of bombing.
Yeah.
Like, you're bombing. You're not overplaying that you're bombing, but you can tell. I can kind of tell that you're getting a little thrill out of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of my biggest. I think that most of that show you could attribute back to like Steve. I think I took a lot of inspiration from Steve Martin's "Let's Get Small" and which is like something that I listened to over and over and over again as a kid, and because he's not doing punchlines, he's not doing setup punchline, and I'm not a stand-up comic, so I had to create a certain vacuum where the joke form would work, like the form would work, and the best way I could do that was to bomb on purpose, and it worked.
Do you ever have trouble? I mean, having the sort of personal aesthetic, I guess, of loving to bomb and
not giving a
liking
fuck.
that thrill, not giving a fuck. Do you ever have a problem with sort of that coming out of you when you're working on a very mainstream project and having to be like, oh, tone it down. That's not what this needs. Don't.
No. I try to do it. You try to just. I think that one of the biggest skills an actor can have is acclimating yourself first day of school style to new environments. So, because every day you're going onto a new set, whether it's your friend's, sketch show, or it's a UCB comedy video, or it's a, Iron Man. It's the first day of school every day. So you have to kind of understand when you get there, and when you're talking to people, and when you're auditioning, and when you got to feel what the vibe is, and oftentimes I fuck that up, but
Do you really?
Oh my God, immensely.
Can you say a time where you really? Do you have a story of when you like really fucked it up?
100%. I auditioned for about a year and a half ago. I auditioned for Clint Eastwood for this is pertinent now.
I know it was unfortunately.
It was unfortunately in the news today for being an old racist white person.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. Clint Eastwood is racist.
The director of
What?
Torino.
I thought Gran Torino was like, I thought he was being like Tyler, the Creator. Anyway, he was making this Sully Sullenberg movie. And I'm being honest, and I'm not being disparaging. I did not quite, from the sides that were sent to me, I couldn't get the tone of the movie because, like, the plane lands. You know what I mean? So like, and I haven't seen it yet. I'm sure it's awesome, but like, I just
picture you going into the audition with Clint Eastwood there and be like, Mr. Eastwood, what are we doing here?
Well, I didn't even do
plane
that. I
lands.
didn't even do that because I was like just really trying because like a lot of the movie, at least what I read, takes place as like a discussion of how we're going to land this plane, and like, it doesn't it doesn't matter. It lands. So it's very hard. You're like kind of like, like part of me is like, is this like Inglourious Bastards, but like where we're playing it like the plane didn't land? Like I couldn't get my head around it. So I was reading this part, which I think Jerry Ferrara got, and it's the classic cliche part of like the Long Island guy who like doesn't agree with what Tom Hanks is doing, and so and obviously like I really wanted to work with Clint Eastwood and Tom Hanks, so I read it, and the lines are it's Clint Eastwood, so like the lines are like, in all my days as a dock worker, I never seen anybody try to land a plane in the ocean. Anyway, so I read it, and then the last scene, and I'm like trying to read it straight, and like the last scene is like, I guess the plane lands, and people are getting out of the plane and being interviewed, and my guy obviously like is the character that Jerry Ferrara plays is I guess like in a fight with his dad before he gets on the plane. So like the last scene that you're auditioning is a phone call between you and your dad where you're like telling him I'm okay, because like the dad's obviously been been watching it. It's an emotional scene, you know? So I'm like, I really, I'm doing my best. I memorized it. I really do. And I'm doing it with like a very subtle accent. I'm like, Dad, it's me. Like, I'm okay. No, Dad, don't cry. I'm okay. I'm alive. And then for some reason, like, again, because like either I have a self-sabotaging thing or like, I don't know. I like just improvised. I was like, Dad, when you come pick me up, can you bring one of those everything bagels? Scallion cream cheese, the works. Don't have them toasted. I don't like it toasted. And like, and like I thought I was gonna get that reaction. But like Clint Eastwood is sitting there with his like stupid dad racist country club golf hat on. His like dumb khakis hiked up to his racist nipples. And he doesn't say a word. And he just looks at me. And he knows he's an actor, so he knows that I made the wrong decision. And he's not gonna let me off the hook, so he's not gonna say that's okay. He just like sits there and he looks at me. And he goes, "It's definitely not a comedy." And I was like, no, I know. And so I was like, can I read it again? And he goes, "If that's something you need to do." So I said, "No, I think I nailed it." And then I walked out. I didn't get the job. I like totally missed out on like a ton of money. My kids have to go to public school.
I don't want to disparage Tom Hanks or anything, but I have a feeling that story is going to be better than the movie.
I don't know. He managed to land that plane with a very thin mustache.
And Jerry and Turtle on his side.
And Turtle. I feel like Jerry's going to be good in the role. Sometimes you just lose to the better actor. I'm serious. Jerry is an amazing actor, and like I know Jerry, and I feel like Jerry went in there and was just like, boom, every line, here you go. And Clint was like, "No, that kid's a star."
Clint was like, "Wait, he's from Entourage?"
Yeah,
love
like,
that
"No,
show.
that kid's wait a minute, he was in someone else's Entourage." Anyway.
Let's open it up to the audience for questions. Does anyone have any questions out here?
How's it going, Adam?
Good, how are you?
Good. I feel bad because I have like a serious question. I don't want to.
No, I
darken
love
the mood now.
No, I love talking shit.
Was there a moment in like during the filming of the movie where you guys like stopped the scene and you guys were just like, wow, this went to like a whole nother level of like real?
No, we never stopped and was like, whoa, shit got real. But while you're doing it, and so there was an excitement to it. You're like, wow, Thomas is really going through something, or wow, Nick is charged up, and so you never wanted to stop because you wanted to see what was next, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Next question.
Hey, Adam. I know you're very funny. I have tears in my eyes. I know.
Oh my God! Thank you.
I know you were in a show, The Real Housewives' Husbands. You were Camille Grammer's husband, Kelsey Grammer, and I want to know if you still watch any of the franchises.
I do. You're referring to a show. My friend Casey Wilson, who was on a show with me called Happy Endings. Who's the funniest person in the world. She did a show with her comedy partner June Raphael, which was like where she took real lines of the Real Housewives and then we acted them out. And I do keep up with a couple franchises. I watch New York, I watch Beverly Hills, and so I like New Jersey, obviously. So yeah, I guess I'm a super fan.
Next question.
Hi, Adam. I watch Happy Endings and the Mindy Project. So
Thank you.
No, they're really funny.
Thank you.
So, do you feel like you play exaggerated versions of yourself?
I was talking to someone about this earlier. This is going to be so. This is literally what you're about to hear is the most pretentious thing I've ever said. Bill Murray once said that he wears every character like a thin veil, and that remark stuck with me, and I especially when I started improvising at a young age and reading a lot of stuff from Del Close and a lot of stuff from the Annoyance Theater and from the Upright Citizens Brigade, obviously. And I find that coming from being on stage with no props, it's much easier to put that character on yourself lightly and say, what would I do like this, than it is to say, what would a spaceman do? You know, because who knows? I don't know. I know what I would do if I was a spaceman. You know, and then once that starts happening, it starts to like reveal a character. And if you're really tuned in, you can start picking up patterns, and you can start saying, well, this is how this character now does this. So I think that I would hope that there are similarities in a lot of my characters, and then I would hope that there are some that are wildly different. But I feel like if I'm not putting a little of myself into that character, then you're just seeing like a weird two-dimensional, like, you know, a caricature of what I thought it would be.
You come from a time at UCB where I feel like there were less people doing it.
Yeah.
Like, were your teachers like Paul Scheer, or was he the same school as you?
No,
learning?
Paul was my level 2 teacher.
And his teachers were like Matt Besser.
Yes,
like the originals.
Yeah, Paul had been around for a little bit, but you became a teacher very quickly, and because there was just not a lot of people. And so a lot of, you know, my contemporaries and stuff were also my teachers, and I was lucky enough to be at a time where I could learn from, you know, Matt Walsh. I mean, and Amy, and, you know, I Paul Scheer and Jason Mantzoukas, you know, those guys. I spent every night with those guys for years and years and years and years. And Jackie Clark. I mean, there's name upon name upon name. And so then it was such a small community that, you know, the people that you were spending every night with were all, like, there was so much talent just, like, busting out of there. So I do feel kind of lucky that, yeah, like, I think that I was lucky to be at a time where I got it almost straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, I feel like when you go back now for a performance, 'cause I think you still go back and do some performance.
I try to. I've had a little bit of stage fright lately.
Really?
Yeah. Just you know, yeah, a little bit of stage fright. But I'm working through that with like heavy Hollywood analysts that are very expensive.
But do you find that the schools themselves have changed, or does it just feel weird? Like there's that sense of community isn't?
Yeah, no, that sense of community is always there to me, and that's the beauty of an improv theater, not just the UCB. I mean, part of what people hate about improv theaters is the cult of personality and the dorkiness and the kind of like exclusion and inclusion, all that stuff. But if you're a young kid and all you want to do is like be on Saturday Night Live or, you know, make funny videos, where else are you gonna go? You know, so I think that you have to look at the positive side as well, which is like a sense of community that they give to everybody. And the door is open at all those theaters. You just, you know, have to borrow some money to take a class or intern, which I did.
Absolutely. I think we have time for one more question right here. Hi.
Hi, Adam.
Hi.
And I saw your happy ending series, and it was really good.
Thank you.
And it made me feel laugh. But as every movie is having their own motto, like a message to the world, so Joshy is having what message for the world?
What message for the world would I have for Joshy? I would say Joshy's message is that life is not, nothing in life ever stays the same, ever. Nothing is finite. And so the only thing that you can really do is just keep moving through it. And yeah, I would say that's the best thing.
Adam, how can people see Joshy?
I have a series of owls that I will release at 11 p.m., and each of them has a message tied to its throat. Capture the owl, kill it, cook it, bring it to a homeless shelter. There will be someone there named Pablo who will give you a little disc.
It's gonna do wonders at the box office.
Yeah, at the Owl office. It comes out in theaters. I don't know which ones. It was August 12th on Friday, but you can stream it on demand and on Hulu right away. And it's Hulu's first movie, so.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, Hulu owns my entire catalog.
Actually, yeah, that's very true.
Yep, I can't do anything.
You are Hulu's golden boy.
Yeah, well, more like Hulu's like bronze boy, because I ain't getting none of that cash.
Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much.